Let me know when we're on. This is the regular meeting of the Academy Community Center Building Committee. Today's Monday, today is Tuesday, July 24th. Third. Is that
July 23rd.
Tuesday, July 23rd. Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and we have five of the seven members. Joan Walker will not be attending, and Dave Spurley has not arrived yet. First order would be the approval of the prior minutes from July 8th. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any corrections or updates required to the minutes, July 8th? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I'm abstaining since I wasn't here, and so meaning the July 8th minutes are approved. Chair's comments. I'd like to say, first of all, I'd like to say thanks to Dave Spurley. If you were here, I'd say it to him directly for filling in for me while I was away. As far as I can tell, he did an excellent job, and I'd like to formally thank him for that work. The second thing that I'd like to do with the chair's comments, I would like to open up another meeting agenda, another agenda item that's currently not on here that I didn't ask John to put on. That was the schedule as was, and the components of a schedule between now and February. I'd like to be able to discuss that, maybe get some more clarity on some of the things that were in there that I might have missed. So I'd like to make a motion to add a new business item under 11 to discuss the current schedule for the current project schedule, and that would make I guess this would be between 10 and 11. It would be 10A under the business. So I have a second on that.
Second.
Any other discussion? No? So we'll just add that in at the appropriate time. That's all I had for chair comments. The next is the liaison report. Al, take it away.
Greetings, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I really have nothing to add since our last meeting, and the minutes of the meeting accurately capture the thinking of the Board of Selectmen at the current moment, and that is we think we do want to go to referendum and ask the public if they're willing to provide apply some of our grant funds to this project. And the selectmen are still of a mind that the best time to do that is midwinter. At our selectmen's meeting last night, a number of members of the public spoke up and urged us to consider holding the referendum at the time of the general election in November. But as we stated previously, we think the fairest way to present this to the public is with the best, most accurate information, and that would be the bids from the potential contractors, as opposed to presenting the public in November with estimates from our professional cost estimators. So I would say at this point, the thinking of the selectmen remains, we go to referendum in mid-January, or midwinter, let me say.
And now what's going to drive it between mid-January and you know, mid-April or whenever winter ends.
Well, as we understand the timeline that Colliers has laid out, that the bids from the contractors will be back and will be able to be analyzed, and that we will be able to present the public a very firm number. And when we have that firm number, we would like to get that to the public as soon as possible in order that this project can move forward as soon as possible. And with this committee having the answer from the public as to how much money is available to spend on the project. So our understanding is that will be ready. I keep using the term midwinter, late January, early February. And perhaps Colliers could comment if that is not a correct understanding.
I think that we if you didn't hear, we're moving that the scheduled discussion down further in the agenda. So you know, there's two ways to set out. You could tell us the date that you think would be best, and we could work towards it. Or you can wait till we give you a ready, set, go, and then I understand it's 4 weeks after that. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think there'll be some constant communication between this committee and the Board of Selectmen as to when those numbers will be ready. And yes, we need preparation time to get this to an actual referendum. In addition to that, the selectmen are well aware of the need to educate the public, not waiting until we call the referendum, but start an education process much, much sooner. And our first selectwoman is working on laying out a timeline and an apparatus to help get the public educated. For those of you that were part of the previous referendum, you know that Bill Stableford and others conducted educational sessions with a variety of groups over many, many months. And I think we envision doing something like that again.
Okay. Peggy, have a timeline for when that might be ready?
Not yet, but we will be in constant touch with you because many of you will be participating in that in terms of helping the public understand this project and understand why we are calling for a referendum.
Okay, thank you, Al.
Joe.
We should vote on that. Add the agenda.
Oh, I didn't do that? Where's Joan when I need her? Can we, so we did have
A
motion,
and
a second, and there was no discussion. I thought I called for all in favor to say aye. No?
Not on that, not on
No,
that.
all in favor of adding the agenda item 10A to the current new business section of the agenda, say aye, say affirm.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, Al. Liaison, that was the liaison report. Review and approve the invoice packet if applicable. I think I've seen there is an invoice packet.
There is an invoice packet. Joan and I have discussed. We recommend approval.
Yeah. I haven't gotten any.
It came.
That might be a you thing.
Friday,
I think,
Yesterday.
yeah, it's I think it's the email address that I
Invoice
have for you. I
package.
need to get it
It came yesterday.
yesterday.
Madison Academy invoice package for the 7/23 meeting. I got it at 2:52 p.m. yesterday.
What? We'll talk about one.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll email you right now. See if you can adjust yours.
and this will go to Jeannie before we leave. That's the signed
We have
version.
to vote, right?
You have to vote.
We'll have to vote All in favor of accepting the invoice summary? I make a motion that we accept the invoice summary. Do I have a second?
So we're asking for 60 for QA&M.
No, 60 plus their expenses.
Plus there's like $86 for expenses. Right. This is for construction documents. We're
Yeah.
saying that we're 25%. Right.
Did I get a second on approving? Yeah.
Okay.
And so just any discussion now that you've had a chance to look at it.
No, it seems on track.
Felicia? Yep,
I think
okay.
it sounds good.
Okay, all in favor of approvals indicate so.
Aye.
Affirmation, good. Myself included, and I will get this to Jeannie for processing at the end of the meeting.
And you don't have the-
I am noting, I'm looking at it, it was just sent to Joe, Jeannie, Joe, and me.
Okay.
Sent to
Oh,
the
I'm sorry,
entire-
that's right. I sent the invoice. Okay.
Then it was not further delivered.
Yeah, we'll need part of that process to be the committee see that
It should, yeah.
if we're gonna be expected to vote on it. that's-
No, it should come out with the agenda items.
Right.
Hopefully,
I
if.
thought, well, I think Jeannie sent it out.
I don't know.
Okay, I think it was part of Jeannie's. email.
It was
It
not.
was not part of.
Oh, was it
It was
not?
not part of, it's not attached to the same email from which we got the minutes from last meeting,
Oh.
the agenda for this meeting, and a couple of other handouts.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that, so I don't know where that's going
Are you
wrong.
still using your town email?
No.
Oh, so you need to give me, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
that's-
sending it to Felicia.
Yeah, that's where it's going.
Yes, no, I
Yeah,
turned
it
that
was-
one over.
It
Okay.
was sent
I have access to it, but I'm not using it.
Check my email too, because I'm not seeing it.
I will remedy that tomorrow.
Okay, no problem.
So if you can make a note, Jeannie, to, or who sends it out? Do you send it out? Or just,
It should come out with.
It should come out with the packet.
With the packet.
okay. If you could make a note of that, Jeannie. please. Next item, review and approve budget line item transfers if applicable.
Not today.
Not today. Collier's update. John?
Thank you, Joe. A couple things to share, which hopefully everybody has seen. I did send an email earlier today regarding the groundwater sampling and receptive surveys that were received from Fuss and O'Neill. In summary, I'll just read what they noted, which is that no private or public supply wells were identified within the search radius, and all developed properties were confirmed to be connected to public water. Additionally, based on the results of the June sampling event, groundwater impacts in the area of the former tank grave are concluded to be limited in extent, and there is no evidence of impacted groundwater migrating off-site or down gradient of the former fuel oil tank. Based on these findings, we have concluded that no further investigation is warranted in the area of the former fuel oil tank at this time. So those were the monitoring wells that they had set up probably about a month and a half ago, I think now. And, based on the findings, everything came back positive and, in favor of not having to worry about that issue. So those two reports were sent out earlier today. I'm not sure if you saw that, Joe.
I didn't read the reports, but I
Okay.
saw your commentary. on it.
Comment from the. yes.
Yeah, but I was wondering, maybe it's just part of the construction of it, but is there any required remediation of the soil? We're probably gonna dig it up anyhow,
They would be probably digging up, I think, part of that area where that
Anyhow,
oil
so
tank
that-
was, so that was
dispose of that soil appropriately.
correct. I mean, they'll test it. It should have been disposed of when they removed the tanks, initially, but, they will probably just double check that and confirm that that soil is.
And is there any further action to close out, anything out with the state?
I don't believe so. No, Kathleen did not indicate there was anything more that needed to be done at this time.
Can we get Preston O'Neill to put that all in writing?
Oh,
That there is no need
Oh,
to
nothing
remediate
further?
any of the soil? That there is no further follow-up, and that they will, if they're going to discontinue with the monitoring, could they do what would normally be called a closeout report? I don't know if that,
Well, I don't think they're gonna discontinue the monitor.
yeah, I don't think that's being discontinued. I think they're gonna leave that in place. But as far as the initial testing and the results, they did not find that there were any issues with.
okay.
I think what they would say is that the soil will need to be evaluated. That's a sniff test or visually sampled when it's dug up. And then they should comment on how often further monitoring may be required, if at all.
Because I think some of the report was there, because I did get a little more information, but I did not see any, what the follow-up would be. So if they could, in a letter or an email or whatever, to follow up with, to indicate what the follow-up is going to be.
That term, no further action, typically means close.
But but that doesn't mean, or does that mean that they're not going to recommend remediating or testing the soil? And if it does, then that's further action required.
If the soil's not disturbed, left in place, is that okay?
Right.
Because certainly if we do disturb it, we have to evaluate.
So to add on to Joe's question, I would wonder how all of this is going to be incorporated and captured in the bid documents so that we're not hit by a big change order if the soil does get disturbed and ends up being contaminated. So how does the design team want to incorporate Fuss and O'Neill's work? And how do we want to capture that so that we do have a cost line item for, if you do disturb the soil, this is X amount for removing it. So that we,
Defer to
There's-
Tom, but
yeah, I don't
Tom,
know
how do you wanna
package it all
approach that?
together.
We've done all the
So-
work as well.
Use it.
Pain Environmental will put a bid spec together for the tank removal. One thing we might want to talk about is doing it as a separate project. On a lot of our projects, we do tank removal or environmental remediation as an individual project. It's something that could be put out the bid ahead of time. The work could be done prior to any other contractor mobilizing on site. However, if it's not done that way, Payne will put the bid specs together and it'll be a part of the overall bid project. It's fairly normal for tank removal projects like this. They'll pull the tanks, they'll test the soil around the tanks, and they'll remove soil as far back as they have to go to get clean margins. And then they'll replace with structural fill. Usually this is done on a unit cost basis for removal of that material. So you won't have a final hard bid cost. You won't know what the final amount is until the project's done. But the magnitude of these types of projects doesn't tend to be massive. Usually it's just the soil around the tank and it doesn't spread too much.
Yeah, I think that makes me feel confident. As long as there's a unit price in there for soil removal, we should be covered.
And is the tank still in there? I thought the tank had been,
I thought it had been removed as well.
Yeah.
You think the tank's still there, Tom?
I honestly don't know. I'm just referring to tank remediation. So if it's just soil remediation, it's the same thing. They'll bid a certain amount of value. You could do it two ways. We could do additional testing, which is like a phase 3, which will show the extents of the, sort of the extents of the material to be removed prior to putting it out to bid, or you can just do an estimated amount of material to be removed with a unit cost to do beyond that.
This was the tank that was on the side of the building, I think, or the area that's on the side of the building.
There is-
Not in the courtyard,
No, not in the courtyard.
not in
correct?
the courtyard, it's on the side, I guess it would be the east side.
Building may remove that tank as soon as the school was closed.
I think all the tanks were,
I
I
thought
think
the
all the
tank-
tanks were removed, but they weren't removed properly.
Or there was, if it was in the ground and there was a leak while it was in the ground, that contamination is still in the ground.
Yeah, which wasn't removed properly, it wasn't properly
Sure.
closed out.
Yeah.
So the summary that John quoted in his email says the area of the former tank ring. So
Right.
that sounds like there are no tanks there now.
Yeah, we did get some verbal confirmation from facilities that they were all removed. But then we, in a documentation diligence with the state, we found that there were no official tank closures. So if it's the tank that was on the side of the building, do we intend to disturb that soil? If we don't,
I think on the side.
I don't think we will, but I guess something if Fuss and O'Neill could tell us,
If we do.
is it okay to leave it there or do we need to remove that soil?
I think as long as you're not affecting or impacting
I don't
that
remember what the level,
Soil.
the action levels were, and what our testing results were.
Okay, I'll check with Fuss and O'Neill.
I'm assuming, because they say no further action, that's what, we don't have to do anything.
Right.
Maybe they can specifically comment on whether or not we can just leave the soil there.
But I don't believe that's in an area that's going to have pavers or
No, that's
parking
on
lots
the side.
or sidewalks at it.
Nothing.
Nothing in that area, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Academy Street.
Academy Street, right?
Academy
Academy Street, where the backstop is, more or less.
Yes, exactly.
That's that general, that area. Right, that's okay.
So, so I'll follow up with Fuss and O'Neill on those couple items.
Okay.
Also, in speaking with Kathleen earlier today, she did note that she is still waiting to hear back from the town regarding the selective demolition work. So that is, holding a couple things up. So I did email Erin and asked if there's any update on the status of that. I know she was looking to pursue that and get that paperwork in place. So hopefully I'll hear something tomorrow from her on that. And then
She's
that
on
can,
bereavement.
sorry?
She's on bereavement.
Oh, okay, then I probably won't hear from her tomorrow.
What was
So
that?
She's on bereavement leave.
Pardon?
Bereavement
Oh,
leave.
leave.
What specifically is the question that is necessary for her to sign off on? Do you know?
She's looking to submit that paperwork to DCE, is the acronym for that? Brought that. But she's looking for the town to sign off. The town needs to have that reviewed by DECD, I believe is the acronym for the department that needs to verify. I'm not sure exactly what they have to do, to be honest, but they are looking to respond to the town to have this, I believe, fall under the brownstone
Is it
grant.
also the brown?
Yeah, it's tied into the grant.
So it's more than just the 10-day hazmat?
I believe so, yeah. I
Okay.
think it's more involved in that.
Hmm.
I mean, she had reached out to them a couple weeks ago now, so I just don't know, where that's at, and I was just looking for an update.
She's
from her.
looking, she reached out to the town?
No, I'm sorry, Aaron reached out to DECD.
Oh, to DEC, okay. I was gonna say Erin is the town.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so the selective demo is held up.
So it's like the demo's held up to find out, it can be covered under brown goods, right?
Right, Kathleen had mentioned a couple meetings ago now, I think it was, regarding, the process and the paperwork, what she's looking to have approved, submitted, getting a contractor on board to do that selective demolition scope. She's in communication with Tom and Brian at QAM as far as, what that full scope entails. And then that in turn ties into some finishes and things that are one of the subsequent meetings that's on the schedule there that we'll touch on later.
I'm just wondering, as we're looking at this schedule and that'll have a huge impact on
Have a couple
way
other
we can move
things.
through everything else.
Mhm.
If you had sort of a not to exceed number, is it something that the committee would be willing to pay for it out of other funding if the brownfield, maybe we could retroactively pay for it out of the brownfield, or would we just want to move forward with it out of our regular coffers, so to speak, if this is going to become a big holdup, hearing back from the state?
It's a dependency for us to make other decisions about materials, right?
It's a huge dependency on anything inside, yeah, so.
So it doesn't sound like work that we want to delay. Or that we would ever say no to doing. Like, I can't think of a scenario where we would
It's gotta
say,
get done.
Yeah, it needs,
no, we're not going to do it, because the risk of us making material choices could have far-reaching consequences. If we find this like a demo, maybe crashes the floors as it rips them off red or something. Decided to.
As long as we take that grant money, and put it back.
Yeah, it would be great if we could retroactively.
Yeah.
But I think it's, I would view as scope of work that would be covered in the base scope of the building, regardless of whether or not you had the brownfield grant, right? Like you would do it regardless of whether or not you
Yeah.
had
You're
the
not doing it
brownfield.
because of the grant, you're doing it because of the needs of the project.
Exactly, right. So is it worth waiting for the brownfield people to get back to us, or is it just, let's just move quickly, hope they get back to us before the invoice hits?
So if we were to take that path, we would have to notify Kathleen to go ahead with the getting the contractor and all the ancillary things that have to be done without the go-ahead from Aaron. And it would be charged to the project, to the
budget.
budget.
As long as there's no problem allocating grant money back into the budget.
Well,
That's the unknown.
it could be that by the
Otherwise, I
time,
would wait.
but by the time it gets done, or by the time it actually happens, we'll have the answer.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, this doesn't sound like something like she's just gonna go to Home Depot and pull a couple of guys off the street and bring them into the building. This will take some time to set up.
Sure, but I would,
And then by the time the invoice arrives,
Yeah,
I'd hate to get down that path to find out there's some stipulation in the grant saying you cannot allocate money back from the grant retroactively.
But there also could be stipulations that we could wait for the grant and we could find out that the grant doesn't cover it. So the risk goes on both sides.
Sure, before making a decision,
What is the timeline on the decision, on getting an answer back? We don't know.
we have no
I
idea.
don't know.
Bureaucracy. But
I'm sure you can allocate money back.
But they
But
must have some sense of like, on average, how long this sort of thing takes.
it'd be nice to know before we spend.
Is it
money.
months? Is it weeks? Is it years? It's like, we can get some order of magnitude. number.
honestly, as somebody who's kind of like dealt with lots of grants, it kind of depends who is allocating the grant and how efficient they are, and so that's kind of, we don't have a timeline, unfortunately. I would love to say that there is one, but
who is the granting agency?
exactly,
Who is it?
DEC.
Environmental
Is it
Department
it's a state
Economic
department?
Economic, yes, Department of
State of
Economic.
Connecticut?
Yes.
Yeah. We finished a project last year. We're still waiting for our grant money from the state.
Well, from a cash flow perspective, it's
Yeah.
killer.
yeah.
Um,
So waiting for the answer about whether or not they're gonna reimburse us is small compared to waiting for the money to actually arrive.
Is it time or is it money? Right, yeah, if it's gonna be a year or two.
and the risk to the schedule of waiting till we get the answer from DC versus going ahead and saying, we need to just move ahead with this. And if by the time the invoice comes, if we pay it out of the budget, it's money well spent.
Right. It's a happy consequence.
Yeah, if it's a year.
Yeah.
If it's 3 weeks, I'd wait. If it's a
Yes.
year, I would.
But we could just hold the invoice for 3 weeks. I'm sure they give you net 30. Come on.
Midnight.
Net 90 even for the state.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into the schedule discussion, but if the CD documents are being issued to the estimators by August 12th, you would hope that the results of the demo and then all of the interior finishes review meeting by the design committee and facilities would have taken place by August 12th, but it's already the 23rd. I don't see that
That's
happening.
gonna be tight, yes.
So as a, I don't know if we have to vote on, I don't know if this is gonna require a vote, maybe. That we go ahead and authorize to Kathleen to go ahead with the selective demolition.
Yes.
And she'll have to get quotes, and we can see when the quotes come in, what we, whether, if it's feasible to do it out of our budget, or if we really do have to wait, and what the timeline is on waiting. But I think getting the project getting the whole process kicked off is key at this point.
Mhm. Well, so I guess the question last week that we had, or last meeting, was, do we even need to get bids, or are we authorized to just hire someone? That was another question, because if we have to get bids, that's another month and a half before we even get bids, let alone get them working. Versus if we can
Right.
hire someone, it's just how fast can you get here?
And I think that was another question she was posing, Kathleen was posing,
That came up with the grant.
So I guess,
part of the grant and
I
part
think it
of
was based on the dollar amount, maybe not for the town, but the grant may require bids.
right, the best
Mm.
question is, how much is it gonna cost us, do you think? Like, if she approaches somebody and says, how much is it gonna cost us? And then we can all make that decision whether or not we should pay it just out of, because if we're waiting for the grant to reimburse us, it's not gonna happen. If we have to RFP and then wait for the grant to reimburse us to pay the people, it's just not gonna happen, so we should just scrap it and move on. Versus if we just say, okay, Kathleen, you're authorized by this board to go hire the hazmat person you think should do this, get them out here ASAP, we might still be able to salvage the schedule.
Tom, you don't happen to know the cost, do you? I didn't ask her that
Ballpark.
question. Ballpark on what the selective demo would entail?
I don't because of the containments, but in terms of the simple removal, it's, a couple laborers, a couple days. I mean, maybe it's 32 hours at
Yeah.
$150 an hour. So the actual work is probably $10,000 worth of work, but the containment and the enclosure, I don't know what that impacts it, but if I had to guess, I would say the magnitude of cost is probably not more than 25 grand, and that's probably high.
Well, I mean, this is the type of thing that depends on the scope. What is the scope? And then you can work from there to get
I mean, she
get
had
the
a pretty
cost.
good definition of the scope.
If she has a good definition of scope, then she should be able to tell us what a cost would be.
I think she should just go out and get a quote from somebody and say, how fast can you get in here? And if it's under 25, we should just,
Well, we can make the decision at that time.
Okay,
well, it's another 2 weeks
that's-
before we can
yeah,
make that
another-
decision.
couple weeks for the next meeting, so
We could do a vote by, we could do a vote if we have to,
by email
or
special meeting.
special meeting. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get it done.
We could just say right now, if she goes and gets a quote and they can do it for under 30K, she's authorized. Right, not to exceed a 30K, you can give it not to exceed amount. We can vote on it now and just say you're authorized. That way she doesn't have to come to us, and then it's another 2 weeks.
And I'll phone a friend here and
I mean, as far as-
ask,
I think we should proceed,
we should proceed the way Felicia just described.
yes.
Okay, then I need a motion to describe what we just said, and
I think we should
We're
put,
inside Collier's update right now. Are
Yeah.
we good to vote?
we have to make a new line item. Agenda
I don't think we have to. Which Joan when you need her, right?
I think you need to make a motion to open the agenda to add the item, vote on that, and then make the motion
Okay.
that you want.
Do this.
I'll do it again. I'd like to make a motion to add an item on 7, what I guess it would have to be new business, actually.
Yeah, it's good.
So it would be new business under 10 B to consider how we will deal with the selective demolition selective demolition.
To consider or to vote?
Pardon?
To consider or to vote?
Well, we're-
Consider and vote.
We're just opening the agenda now.
Yeah, we're just opening the agenda. But if you want to put in vote, then in vote.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we need a motion to actually do what we just described. And I'll let someone else do that.
Actually,
We'll
can
do
I
that when
just
we get
add
to-
that we should maybe put a time frame on it? Maybe?
Timeframe on,
For how quickly they complete it, or at least, so I would
Soon as
say that, yeah, I would say that we release Foss and O'Neill to hire somebody for a not to exceed price of 30K for the selective demo, and to have them, I would like to say complete by 8:15, I don't know if that's realistic, but at least to have them working by 8:15. Because otherwise, it kind of leaves that portion.
I think we could say as soon as possible.
Or you could say
As soon as
it is.
possible. I mean, without Kathleen being able to respond, I don't know.
Yeah, okay,
Putting a date on that, but as soon as possible, I think.
let's put a date on it.
all right, not to exceed 3K ASAP.
30.
30K, sorry, not 3K, 30K.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll sort that out when we get down to new business.
Okay.
Okay, and then the only other thing I had for the Colliers report, just wanted to let the committee know that we had a meeting last week regarding the IT, discussed that. Art's here tonight and can weigh in on that as well if you'd like. One thing that did come up that I just wanted to mention, Ben had questioned the security of the building. And the his concern of potentially having the building open, if you will, in the evening when there's maybe an event going on, either in the gym or one of the community rooms, and the fact that the balance of the building would be, open and accessible. So in lieu of potentially putting in, doors in hallways, trying to seal off certain areas, I believe the consensus was that would, the addition, adding of doors would not be favorable or preferred, but I just wanted to, mention that. I don't know, Art, if there's anything else you wanted to speak to.
Is Ben on the call?
No, he's not. I was hoping he was gonna be on, but he's not, so.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't intend to.
Could you speak up, please?
Yeah, I didn't intend to speak today. I just wanted to hear the report. But as I remember, the discussion on security, I think that it would inhibit access to the restrooms if you were going to do some
Right, that-
outdoors. That's outside of my area on the IT department.
Yeah, and that was,
On that conversation about if you have an event after business hours, the layout was going to be conducive to keeping the entire building open to the public, essentially. The public would have access to every floor of the building if you didn't do something to remediate that. So a couple of ideas were discussed. I don't know that we landed on any solutions, but it was brought up as a concern.
Is there a report being issued, like a meeting minutes?
I did meeting minutes, those were distributed to those that were there. I can,
Yeah.
distribute them to the building
Yeah, I
committee
think
too.
just
if
to
you
the
want.
building committee, and then
Yeah,
they
sure.
could just go on the record to inform anything. 'Cause that is a good point. I think Al, if I could ask kind of what is the plan for staffing this building, and who is the governing agency that would set the hours? And that is a question for that, right? Is it going to be open from 8 to 8? And that's a normal thing, or,
Feature Act.
is it Beach and Rec that has the purview to set the hours?
Yeah.
So maybe Beach and Rec needs to be brought into that conversation about, securing all the levels of the building during all open hours. And how they would maintain that during special events, because they do it at the senior center all the time. So I think they have a protocol. And what would they imagine that the protocol for the Academy Center would be?
I don't think the Guilford Community Center locks down. They do events. It's kind of an open building, so
It's a lot smaller. They're a lot smaller.
It's a lot smaller.
I think it's a question for Beach and Rec. What their programmatical,
I think there was probably some precedent also
Approaches.
by some of the other shoreline towns and how they.
Yeah.
managed it.
Branford might be a good example.
Yeah, we can't be the first person to have to, the first community center to have to solve this.
Right.
Joe, may I respond to Felicia's question?
Sure.
Oh, okay. It's a great question, Felicia, and I think Beach and Rec is certainly initially in charge of the building, but I would ask the committee members to keep in mind that this building is going to be used over many, many decades. And whatever brilliant ideas the selectmen have for opening day is probably going to evolve over the years, and this building will be used in many different ways over the years. So I would ask the committee to not get trapped into thinking just about day one. And I think Tom Arcari can help us think about all the many ways the building may be used over time. And in response to Felicia's question, I don't think we should plan on a single way of operating the building. I just think it will evolve. And when it comes to security and hours and staffing, I think that will all evolve many, many times. So I would ask the committee to make this building as flexible as possible in light of the fact that whatever we think is going to happen on day one is going to change dramatically by year 5.
I also think, if I may add on there, with regards to the technology solutions, because some of the community spaces are identified just as community spaces without a lot of function assigned to those spaces now. You know, we were looking for as much flexibility as possible in any cabling systems, that we would have, you know, data cabling suitable for whatever might come up. You know, we talked about the infrastructure in the building being, you know, fiber between closets, all the usual things that I would expect, you know, either Cole Ronan or D'Agostino Associates to be weighing in heavily on, but lots of Wi-Fi coverage, just so that we would be prepared for whatever future uses were going to be defined that are not currently clear.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Jehan?
I'll defer the scheduled discussion until the new business.
Okay. Thank you, John. So that's the Collier's update. QA&M, Tom, you wanna-
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Good to have you back.
Good to be back.
Some of my thunder was stolen there. Generally, we're proceeding with the construction documentation. Coordination with the engineers is underway. We are heavily dependent on some of that destructive exploration work, especially for the structural engineer, and coordination of where mechanical units are going to be placed on the roof and how we infill the roof assembly. So we need that information. We did have a technology meeting. I'm doing a little bit of follow-up work regarding, you know, what the scope of the technology package really needs to be and how it related to the original intentions of the project. That's an ongoing conversation. Some of the scope, I think, falls into soft costs as opposed to hard costs. And then as far as the rest of our work goes, we're underway. We're still pushing towards a mid-August estimate date. We did get confirmation from the mechanical engineer that the mechanical package will be ready by mid-August. Still trying to get some clarification on some of the electrical work. But we're underway, and we have reviewed the schedule that you're going to discuss next, and we are in alignment with it.
In our last meeting, I believe which I watched, by the way, I believe Brian was pretty seemed to be pretty adamant that he was not going to be ready mid-August, that he was more like end of August.
The mechanical engineer committed to mid-August. I think we agreed to like third week of August approximately. So we've given up a week, we're pushing them a week. I think we're gonna be in that ballpark. I mean, it has to be that ballpark because, the overall schedule shows us, being done with CDs end of September. The estimator's gonna need 3 or 4 weeks. So we're gonna get an estimate right about the time when we're ready to go out to bid. So if we don't do it sooner, then it doesn't make any sense to do the estimate. We should just draw the building, go out to bid, and the cost is the cost, and potentially do some value engineering from the actual the bid numbers. So it has to be mid-August.
Tom, can you elaborate the impact of this selective demo? Obviously on the finishes, but that can kind of be captured in an add alternate. But what structural implications does it have that we can't quite work into the drawings without knowing what it's going to tell us?
They don't really know which way the framing aligns and how they should infill the space. They can make a guess and draw something, but it could be completely different from that, which could open the door for potential change orders. So that's really where the issues lie.
Means there's big implications.
It could be in those particular areas. I mean, it might not be. You can always take that gamble. But they don't seem to really want to put a prescriptive solution together until they have a little more information.
And they have access to the design documents from the 1930s edition that does show how it's linked in. It's not in those documents, or do we just not trust those documents?
They have both. They have information, but they want to know what's really there.
Okay, so we want to field verify, which I understand. Okay.
And Tom, what is driving the end of August date? I know you said the estimator, which would be 3 weeks or so, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it was, which would be the end of September. But what after that drives it? What's driving it after that?
Well, we're pushing towards completion of the construction documents at the end of September. So let's call it the third week of August, we're not going to be done, but we're going to have a lot more information than we had at the DD phase. But if we go beyond the end of August, it takes the estimator 3-4 weeks to do their estimate. By the time we get an estimate, we're already ready to go out to bid. So we need to go out to bid if hypothetically we want to hit a target referendum date of February or end of February. We need to go out to bid in, not much later than the middle of October. So, if we get that information, let's say we go out to bid the end of August and we get the information the end of September, you only have a week or two to do anything with that information. And we're really not going to have the time to switch gears and change the documents. I mean, we're going to have a couple weeks. So the sooner we get the estimate on the street, let's say third week of August, and if we can get it done in 3 weeks, that gets us done in the second week of September. Hypothetically, that might give us a month until we put the drawings physically on the street. That gives us a little more time to react, make some changes based on, the cost projections or the scope, or questions the estimator might have. So that's why doing it second, third week of August makes more sense if we're gonna hold fast to a February referendum. Because if you back up from a February referendum, 60 days for notification, you have to be mid-December, and you lose time in December for the holidays. So you really need to be in a position December 1 to have a number. So middle of October to middle of November gets you a number, right? Or maybe the third week in November gets you a number right around Thanksgiving. Wait, am I doing my math right? Yeah, middle of October to right
We're gonna
around
work on this.
Thanksgiving.
We're gonna try to get a better, firmer schedule, that's.
Understand,
part of
so
that.
that's, I'm
But
trying
I'm
to,
getting, but one of the things I heard, and I heard this, I think, two different ways, just even today, that you're thinking 60 days notice for the referendum. And I thought I heard Al say that the details for the referendum was 4 weeks. 4 weeks is not 60 days. So if the referendum were done during the presidential election, that's the long notice. But a midwinter, or whatever word we want to use, Al, could you clarify, please?
I'd love to clarify, but I better not. I think we need to get this committee a very precise definition of how much time is needed. I don't have the answer, Joe,
Okay,
but I will get it.
I think as we put if we put a schedule together based on 60 days, we will have overestimated the time, but I think we need to get that for sure from the town. And John, I'm looking at you.
Mhm.
You're gonna need that number.
Yes, I mean, we can
We
review that,
will,
discuss that. when
it'll
we
be
get
up to
the
you to
schedule.
get that number from Al, and you're gonna have to put it in the schedule as soon, when you get it.
With the first select woman's timeline for her public events too, because even if it is just 28 days, she might have a lot more planned.
Right.
And we're gonna need to know what she's saying in these public events.
She's gonna need to know.
Right, she's gonna need to know what the number is for the public events is
Mm.
a better way to put it.
I don't know that that's true, but okay, let's, Al, you give us some more clarity on that, what the public events look like, when that final number is going to be needed, and how that affects the date of the referendum.
Yeah, okay. I got it.
Either way, it's October 1st.
Pardon?
Either way, it's October's the latest.
I don't, I'm not sure I believe that, but okay.
well, that's the end of my update. Thanks, guys.
Public comment. Are we close out the QAM update? Any questions for Tom before we move on? Thank you. Public comment. Jeannie, anybody on?
People are on, no hands raised.
No.
No? Okay, thank you. No public comment, so we'll move on. We'll move on to the discussion and possible vote on the proposal for the commissioning agent services. Just because I've been away for a while, and for the general public, if they're listening, what is the need for a commissioning agent for this project, and why do we need to do it now? I think that's even though I believe I know the answers to that, I think we ought to put that out so that we can we can reasonably defend it or discuss it if someone in the public is listening.
All right, the, the need or use of a commissioning agent is associated with this building to address mainly the mechanical, or not mainly, but to address the mechanical systems. They will assist with the overview of the mechanical design for the HVAC system and any of the other components. They have, as I think you know, provided an updated proposal. This is similar to one that they had presented a couple of months ago and was asked to be revised based on the amended MEP scope of work that Kohler Ronan is now doing. And they are going to be assisting with the oversight of the design. They will be reviewing the installation of the system. They will be performing the testing, ensuring that the system is going to be functioning properly. They provide services probably roughly a year beyond the completion of the project to ensure that the systems are functioning properly, that you're getting your maximum return on the investment of the system, of the mechanical components, and ensuring that the approach taken by, in this case, Kohler Ronan, is going to be the most ideal system and design for the building that you have. With respect to, what limitations or situations you have with that building and what can and can't be maximized as far as that design is concerned.
And the contract that we have covers all the points you.
Yes, they are.
I did not read it in detail.
Okay, they are.
There was a proposal in a contract and I did not read it. I did not read the proposal. I did read it.
Their proposal addresses various portions. Some of this is no longer relevant. Usually you have a commissioning agent brought in at the beginning of the design process. So they're involved in the schematic design, design development, construction documents, and then through the construction phase. Because of the timing, they obviously are not associated with the schematic design or the design development phase and are going to be catching up at the tail end of the construction documents, which is still okay. But they have received the latest set of documents, the DD set. They have reviewed that to understand what is involved. And I also sent them the approval for the modifications that Kohler Ronan was asked to address as far as the MEP systems are concerned. So they have, they're up to speed as far as, where they're at on the design. And then they will provide feedback. They will assist with, just read off, participating in design meetings. They will have a controls integration meeting, design review of the CD documents, the commissioning plan and specifications. So they provide some additional documentation to the CD package that goes out to the bidding process. And then they, in turn, will assist with the bidding documents through the bidding phase, any questions that come up with respect to that aspect. And then they also have time and effort associated with the construction documents. Then they have closeout, and then they have the oversight of the commissioning of the system a year beyond the completion of the project for, ensuring that the system is working the way it was designed.
Anybody like to add anything?
That was a very nice overview.
That's nice. Thank you. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Does the presence of the commissioning agent make the design, the CD process longer by the additional meetings and their input, and make it better? Or does it impact the timing at all? Because we just heard the timing was pretty.
No, it does not impact the timing. Their review and meetings are incorporated and dovetailed into the CD design process. So no, it's not extending the time frame at all.
So
My only question is about the line item increase due to the MEP modifications. Why does one,
A little louder, please.
a little louder?
Yeah, for the microphones.
My question is about the line item increase for the MEP modifications. I'm wondering why one system costs more for them to commission than another.
This, actually, I don't know the specifics of that question. I'll have to have them elaborate on that specifically. I don't know, Tom, if you know that answer or not?
Or, oh, Peter.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe it has to do with the piping distribution and they have to inspect all of that. Maybe it's the way the controls are. That's really a good question for Kohler Ronan.
It was 6,000,
I'm sorry?
4,700 more.
4,700 more.
Right.
And that's related to us changing our heating.
From all electric to
From all
a
electric to-
hybrid model. So if I were to take a wild swing at it, it's because you're now evaluating two systems, whereas the first one was just all electrical
One system.
driven and coming
Yeah,
in
it's one
just through
system.
electrical. Versus now you have gas and electrical, so it's two different control modules that you're making sure they play nice together. And so that's a little bit more to calibrate because you're having two different information systems come into the building and
We had
interact.
an entire system.
Exactly, we
including
added
fuel.
an entire system.
Okay.
So the redundancy and the doubling up of that is reflected, I would imagine, in the price of how much more they have to fact check to make sure they're all communicating and functioning the way they need to.
And I think they did reduce the other one, another line item.
Yeah, there are a couple line items that were reduced and or eliminated. But I think, yeah, to your point, Felicia, I believe it is because you have essentially two systems now instead of just one that they're reviewing, monitoring and overseeing during the construction phase. 'Cause that's in the construction phase where that number was
Right.
increased because of the fact you have, two systems essentially versus the one.
So just for your perspective, the electrician with an all-electric system, it's just the electrician who owns that.
Yeah.
And then the HVAC, is doing the ductwork and all of that. If you add gas into it, it's the plumbers who are running the gas lines. So you have a whole other trade that you're monitoring on top of your electrician in terms of the infrastructure that goes in and then the calibration of the different, how the systems talk to each other. So it's different trades that are being layered on top of each other to make one cohesive system versus, less owners.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's even more important that commissioning agent is there. If we've got a more complex system than we have before, from a management perspective.
Yeah.
Especially with the fuel system, now you want to make sure it's running as efficient as it is intended to.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's more complex. It's just at the front end, there's more things to bring online.
And again, they do monitor this, beyond the completion of the project. So they're, keeping tabs on it, making sure that it is functioning the way, it's designed and intended to operate.
Yeah, they have a 1-year revisit of it to make sure that there's nothing.
I remember that from the original review that we did. Is it fair to, like in layperson's terms, to categorize them as a check against the people that we're hiring as well to make sure that we're getting what we paid for?
You mean like an audit?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
audit
Yeah, I would
almost.
say their service ensures us that we get what we wanted on day one and things perform as we intended on day one, and they're still performing on year one.
On day 360.
Yeah,
That's.
they kind of represent our interests as the town.
Yeah, like how can you know,
When the warranty expires.
how do we take care of all the equipment on our own and figure that out?
And presumably, the equipment comes with a warranty period, and I would bet that they would come in during, before the warranty period expires. So that when, that anything that needs to be done will be done under warranty.
Yeah,
and they also serve to confirm that our trainings for our staff on that end happen properly, are recorded properly, so that the town is well aware of how to work the systems. It's not just kind of give us the keys and figure it out.
right.
So they help with that portion of it as well.
In regard to the warranty doesn't start until the system's performing as intended.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
That's interesting.
And also to that point, there's actually a line item here stating near warranty and review. So
Okay.
they are on board at that point.
The last question I have is part of what you, in your overview, commented that they also provide a bit of a check on the design of the system itself. With that, we had the town come in and offer alternative recommendations to our original design. Does SES now come in and say, hey, we want to make modifications to that design as well because of something we see? Is there a risk of that happening and disrupting the CD phase?
No, I mean, that was something that we had briefly talked about. They felt with the drawings that they saw that they were comfortable with what was being proposed. So they did not indicate that they were looking to go changing anything. I mean, they understood that the request had been made from the facilities department to make those modifications to sort of belt and suspenders, if you will. They had no problem or objection to that. So they're not going to be coming in at this point in time, certainly to look at offering other alternatives or suggestions.
As part of their deliverables, is a maintenance and operation plan part of their deliverables?
Yes,
I
that
believe I may have
is.
saw that.
That's what Felicia was talking about, that handoff to the town department. They do that work.
Yeah, the O&M manual review and training reviews, they provide training for that. The systems manual development, seasonal testing they have, final commissioning process report, and like I said, the near warranty end review. So yeah, that is all part of their package and scope of work.
Can I ask, and you had answered this one word if you like. Are they worth it? Is a commissioning agent worth it?
In this case, I believe so, yes.
I would not do the project without it.
Okay. Okay. Then we'll put it up. Is there any more discussion before we vote?
We haven't made a motion yet, have we?
I know that.
Okay.
I do.
I'm trying to.
You could beat me a number of times, but after
But he
4 or
won't
5, but after 4 or 5 times, I do learn. Then I need a motion to approve to accept the proposal of the commissioning agent for this project. So I need a motion.
Second,
Any further discussion?
Do we have to state
All in
the
favor,
dollar
say
amount?
aye.
You have to what?
State the dollar amount in the motion, or is that not necessary?
Like it's, we can say, what is the dollar amount?
The dollar amount is $85,200.
Okay.
and the
Any-
date of the proposal is July 17th, 2024.
The revised proposal, correct, dated July 17th, 2024.
And this was the winning bidder from the original round of proposals as well.
This was the recommended.
The recommended,
Recommended.
not the lowest, but the recommended bidder.
Okay, let's see if we could phrase maybe someone should phrase other than me, should phrase the motion again. And we'll,
Well, I forgot the date and the dollar.
Let me.
you got the date, the dollar amount?
I'll
Not off to a good start.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay,
I make a motion to accept the Sustainable Engineering Solutions revised proposal of July 17th, 2024 for a total amount of $85,200 to provide commissioning services.
No, not second, such a good motion.
I know.
okay, is there a second?
I'll
Yep,
second.
okay, second. Any further discussion? All in favor, indicate affirmatively.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Ann?
Great job.
Yeah.
10A was the review of the schedule. And what was 10B again?
10B was the Hudson
Selection
O'Neill
to-
Hudson
collective
O'Neill.
demolition.
Can we do another half hour here? Everybody in for another half hour?
Yeah.
It's just gonna take a little time. Okay. couple of things on the schedule. I got the milestone schedule and from John this morning. I had a couple of questions. I had a couple of comments before I saw that, but I'll see if I could temper the comments. From the July 8th meeting, and I was not here for that meeting, there were a significant, and I did watch it, and there were a significant number of things that were agreed upon and proposed. And they were, as far as I could see, many of them were not acted on over the 2-week period between now and then. The town department meetings, I guess there was one, but I did not, but there are many town departments, and I haven't seen a schedule for the town departments. The theater assessment presentation and decision timeline, I did see that, I currently saw, and just today, that is August 14th. August 14th. I guess my first question on that is that date satisfactory to get what we want by the end of September?
Yeah.
If they're just coming in on August 14th,
They're just gonna look at the building that day, right?
and then they have to write
Right.
up an evaluation, I guess.
So when would we expect the report? How long do we need to digest it and then vote on it?
Right.
It's your follow-up questions. I would
Yes,
imagine, right?
that's the sequence.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I don't see all that in the current project schedule. Either the bigger project schedule or the milestone schedule. And each of those dates is critical as we go forward to try to meet the dates that Tom has.
I would assume that if we were expected to vote on anything August 27th, we would need at least a week to digest whatever it is their findings are to vote on, to have a worthwhile discussion, right? Just August 14th, the next meeting is the 27th. Can we even make that, or are we assuming that it's the 9th, in which case we're already missing when the estimators go to Keys, so the information they're gathering is kind of.
It didn't sound like that they needed a lot of time.
I know it
Generate
didn't
that
sound
figure.
like, but they're not coming until 3 weeks from now. And if it doesn't, not going to take a lot of time, I'm wondering why they're not here sooner. Do we have an answer?
I do not. I don't know if, Tom, you know any of those specifics? I talked to Brian, and the only comment he made is the 14th of August was like apparently the earliest they could schedule it.
Gone back and forth with Tony Foreman multiple times. He is not budging. He physically cannot get the field work done until the 14th.
This is the person who's going to come in, the consultant.
Stage consultant. So my hands are tied on that one. I'm of the mindset that if we get a result at the end of August, I have a month to make any of the sort of upgrades associated with the stage work. Some of that work won't be in the estimate. You know, right now we're carrying an allowance, but he is going to by the end of August he'll have a guideline scope and cost as a part of his report, so we can include that in our project estimate. And that's the best I can do. I physically can't go to his office, grab him and make him do the field reviews sooner. So
I expect you to really over deliver on this one.
Tom, can I just ask, is there any potential that any of the selective demo and containments, if they were going on August 14th, would negatively impact his access to the things he needs to see?
That's a good question, especially if there's a full containment, but I don't think it's gonna happen under full containment. If I had to guess, it's gonna be a small areas, so.
The containment's gonna be
No.
a small area or?
Isolated. Isolated
Isolated
containment
area.
areas,
Okay.
not the entire building is the assumption.
We also paid for 2 facilities, 2-person trips. Sounds like we'll only actually do 1, right? That's what's on the schedule now. It's just 1 visit.
I do not, I don't have the in front of me and I have to look into that.
I've got it.
Well, I'm looking at the proposal. I mean, the schedule called out starts in June, so that's not relevant, but it's 2-person trips to tour, then a meeting with us to talk about the uses for the constraints that we have. And then they'll generate the report, send it in. So all of those steps have to happen. This is not something we get quickly. Right? That means that they're not probably doing that meeting with us till after 14.
Oh, yeah, long after the 14th.
Keep in mind that the scope of work is isolated to 2 areas, 2 small areas. The worst case scenario, if more time is needed to communicate that information to the bidders, it can be issued as an addendum. Not ideal. And once we find out from the council's liaison as to how much time is required to make notification prior to the bid date, maybe we'll find a little more slack in the bidding schedule. So I guess what I'm saying is it's a little dynamic at this point, but I'm not concerned that it's not a critical path item. It's kind of like a tail on the project.
The meeting that they're supposed to have with us to talk about uses and constraints, does that have to be the whole committee?
It could be a call.
It could just be a call with a couple of people. I mean, sure, you could say that, but Joan's gonna want to be on
Yeah,
that call.
Joe's gonna be on that for sure.
It might want to be a special meeting as soon as he's done his field diligence, but I think the whole committee wants to be a part of that discussion. And the call is probably the easiest way to facilitate that. And
Everyone intends that it's a meeting, it needs to be scheduled.
Yeah.
So
So it's scheduled and noticed. But it's only like 24 hours notice though for a special meeting. So that's,
And we could do a virtual one, right?
yes, it can be virtual also. Or we could, or for those of us who like are retired, we can just
Stroll in there.
Yeah, can I make a wildly probably unpopular suggestion? Since it looks like the end of August through September and when we finally get out to bid is gonna be like a crush of decision making. Do we make this a weekly meeting?
Starting when?
I know,
I think,
If you looked at my August.
yeah, and maybe not in this time frame. Like maybe we could find another, like during a working, I don't know. I'm just wondering if we need a quorum to make certain decisions.
I think I'd like to get to the end of the schedule, the
Yeah.
scheduling, and to see what it looks like, because right now it looks like a weekly meeting isn't even enough. Because we couldn't schedule one particular day when, like every Thursday, we're gonna have the information. Because it's gonna come Tuesday or Monday, and we may need to make decisions soon. So far, to squeeze into the schedule, we have talked about town department meetings. And I think somewhere somebody said how many town departments there are. And there's a considerable number, and we've had one so far.
So I see the fire marshal and sanitation is on there. Is the door hardware review meeting, is that intended to be facilities? Like a
That,
larger, like when is facilities brought into that? Is that kind of in the design meeting?
I believe that that is going to incorporate facilities. Tom, I don't know if you know that answer. I know Brian was looking into that. He had somebody on, at the site last week and was getting some additional information regarding some door frames and information that was pertinent to that. And then he was looking to set up that meeting ultimately sometime next week.
And we're talking about door frames. I had a little experience with this. Our church needed to put a kitchen in, and they needed to put fire doors in various parts of the building with the appropriate design for fire doors. It took a year to get that done,
To get
it done,
the,
because
Design done, or
getting the right doors,
oh, the
getting
installation.
having the doors.
The infrastructure and the mag blocks and everything, yeah.
Yes, and the infrastructure with the fire, with the fire alarm system. I mean, it took a year to get it done. So this is not, when we talk about doors, I presume they're talking about fire doors here. And that is not,
We're talking about all doors.
maybe all the doors, but we're talking fire doors, for the fire doors, which for some have to be here somewhere. It is not an easy process.
Yeah. Can I be in on that meeting whenever you set it for the 31st? Just
I think-
as a line?
I think that's one of those design subcommittee meetings. If that's, I can't remember the exact term that was used, but
Yeah.
the one that you and, I'm not,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
you, AJ? I think
Yeah.
that was the intent, that
That's
yes.
the intent.
you'd be
Okay, so
invited
when
for
the
that.
invite goes out, please just make sure I'm on that.
Um,
Because yeah, so in terms of like keying is another huge thing about who gets the key. Is it master keyed? Is it whatever keyed? Like there's a whole.
This this would not be a keying meeting, although it might be just some feedback about the keying. This would be an actual door hardware discussion. Our hardware specialist would say, what kind of hardware do you want on this type of door? Do you want it to be a classroom lock set, or a storage lock set, or a passage lock set, or an office lock set? How are you going to strategize securing the community center or use of the community center? So, typically in multifunction spaces, we'll have a classroom lock set. So the door can either be open or it can be closed, or, unlocked, or it can be locked. It can be locked individually. But it's a time consuming exercise where you kind of go room by room and talk about the philosophy of the door hardware.
Can I ask?
Talking about emergency exits also, emergency exit doors, is that part of it?
Yes, some of that is code driven though, so it's not really a decision that's easy, but how access to the exterior of the building is addressed ties into the technology conversation. What doors need to work with the exterior hardware from a technology standpoint.
This is just something I'm gonna throw out there, given that Beach and Rec is sort of earmarked to secure and schedule the building, and then Madison Youth and Family is going to be tenants of the building with very secure needs. Is facilities sort of making the decisions on behalf of the town departments, or do the town departments also need to be involved in that so that those needs are being met? And I'm deferring just as a building committee member that just, high level wants to make that we're servicing everybody. But also knowing that changes to door hardware can be costly if they are done after the fact. So I just don't know where the decision-making tree stops on that.
Certainly can't hurt to have town staff involved in those conversations. They can be separate meetings directly with town staff as opposed to one massive group meeting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, I don't know how many meetings we
Can we
need
just
and
have
how
them
many
do a
cooks in the
review of it
kitchen.
After, like an async review, like, here's the thing, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, I guess, Tom, what would you think would be the most efficient way of addressing this sort of multiple users that need input?
I prefer a meeting with your facility staff and the subcommittee. And then a direct conversation with end users about how the 2 or 3 offices in their space want to be, secured. However, you may want to have Austin as a part of that subcommittee meeting because he would be in charge of managing the entire building. And in simplest terms, he would be in charge of figuring out, how are we going to lock off different spaces? We talked about access to the building. This is a public building. There'll be access to it, 10, 12 hours a day, if not more. I really envision it's going to be very difficult to isolate different sections of the building. So multifunction classrooms and activity spaces would be locked, either and then open to correlate with, programming functions. Those spaces will probably be open, or, there'll be access to those spaces most of the day. And then certain times and certain functions, some of those spaces may be secured, but it'll all happen at the room door.
We're saying for that subcommittee meeting, facilities and Austin would be.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I think that makes sense. And then you'll just go to Madison Youth and Family about their own office
About their own
spaces
space.
independently.
Does the department have to have any say?
That was one of the departments that I kind of isolated. It might just be a quick call over to Chief Drum to see if he has any particular concerns, and if he says no, I don't think you need to schedule a particular meeting. Yeah.
I spoke to Chief Drum very early on about the exterior, and he was actually very interested in the security of the building.
Then I think we need to have that as a meeting.
Or at least a phone call for,
Yeah, I don't know if you want to
2 a.m. just
dovetail
reach out
that
to him.
with the fire marshal, if those things are related enough, or if it's worth its own separate meeting. Because I imagine he's probably going to want to ask about video cameras too, which the
Chief
answer
Drum
is we do not have any money. We're not anticipating putting any video cameras.
I'm not gonna speak for him, other than he was very interested in the security.
Okay, so I think, yeah, we need to set
at the
up a meeting with him then.
Because the building he had the number of times the building had been breached in the last year, and it was, I don't know, 70 times or some number of that magnitude. And he knew that, once it was breached, it was impossible for police for anyone to know there's anyone in there. So.
Okay. So that's another meeting. Those were of the town departments that I think we requested meetings for. It was facilities, IT, fire marshal, sanitation, and then security.
We have actually also been we've been efforting a meeting with the building official to talk about some specific code issues. And we've been having difficulty getting the building official to commit to an informal review of our approach. He is, loosely said, he'll look at the building design when he gets a formal submission for permit. So I told Brian, okay, we'll proceed that way and dodge and duck at that time.
Is there any influence we can have over that?
Yeah.
Would we like to ask our liaison to assert some influence?
That's what I'm thinking here. We have our fine liaison on the line, Al, and it may be very prudent for us to have the building official look at this stuff ahead of time to avoid any costly changes that happen because of his input or her input. I don't know.
Yeah.
Joe, maybe Tom and I can speak offline about this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Great, thank you.
So we've gone through the town department meetings on this, the milestone schedule, selective demo, a theater assessment, selective demo, the February referendum timeline. Al, we're counting on you to get that done. I'll skip 2 for a moment on this list. 3 is the construction manager proposal, and we've taken care of that. And I'm gonna go back up to 2. Schedule a page turn with the design committee. That seemed to have, in listening to the video, that seemed to have some level of importance, a higher level of importance, before we go forward with some of the things we've actually, before we go forward to going out to the bid package. Is there an ideal time to do that, or is there an ideal time to do that? I'll ask.
I think it hinges so much on what the selective demo determines that I mean, perhaps we could break it out and say, we could go over things like paint, light fixtures, everything that we could break it out into 2. So it's not waiting, right? We could do everything that won't change no matter what we find with hazmat and selective demo. And then after hazmat and selective demo is done and we know what we're working with, we can discuss those particular items. And that was kind of it was a design committee page turn, but also obviously facilities is welcome to join as sort of their part of it. Was a collective page turn just to make sure that everything in the building. So the door hardware meeting, I think, is already going to be a beast.
It's going to be what?
A beast of a meeting.
Oh,
That's
okay.
going to be a
It's a
long,
long meeting.
complicated meeting. So
I
I
said it
would
was a
want
feast. I was wondering how I get invited.
so I don't know that we would want to add on to that, but if it's worth, sometime between that July 31st and, mid-August, if it's worth having a first page turn for everything that's not selective demo. Tom, it's really kind of how your team wants to break it out. If it's worth breaking it out just to give you more information, or if you'd rather just wait until you know everything.
I'd rather wait.
Okay. So we're doing it all together. It's all hinging on when that selective demo, how fast it can get done.
Yeah, because that's,
Just more down to the wire.
answers are contingent on that.
What is the prelude to it? How long does it take to prep? And then how long does it take to, what's the the beginning to end? Is it, you can't just walk in you just can't just, the committee, the design committee just can't walk in, the day you finish it and say, the day you finish and look at it. It's not, there's some prep time that they're going to need to be able to digest it, or some time for questions. And then there'll be the page turn, and then there may be a follow-up.
I mean, I think the point of the page turn is so that you don't have everybody doing separate design review. You kind of all come in and go literally page by page and say, okay, I agree with that light fixture. I would like to pick a different flooring, all of that. And you kind of it's a long meeting, but the idea being, instead of doing multiple design reviews and having to come together and discuss all of the different, you kind of just do it in one sitting.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it can happen pretty quickly after selective demo. It's just the implications of what comes out of that meeting and how long selective demo takes to even get the information. That's kind of what, the page turn can be a 4-hour, just get it done. But then what then the architects have to do to respond to those feedback is, that's a timeframe that I can't, that would be up to Tom to say, what he would need.
Tom, your experience on this?
I don't know. I think the selective demolition work will happen in a week. And then we'll have some answers thereafter, probably the following week. So then we could probably have a real conversation the week after that. So 2 weeks for the demo and the sorting out what's actually there. And then the following week we have a discussion about, all right, what are we doing? Finish wise, approach wise.
Right, and then we need to incorporate a brief to this committee afterwards to say this is what the design committee discussed and these are our recommendations. Do you agree with proceeding to changing the documents?
We think we could happen the 27th.
I will be gone that day. Unfortunately. Given that selective demo hasn't even started, that's tight. I would imagine.
The whole approval process, let's not worry. Somewhere there's gonna be an approval process. I'm not sure where that's gonna be at the moment, but let's just pull that off to the side for the moment. The other thing, and this is that I go down the list here, that as I go down, clearly define the base bid versus alternates. Tom, are you clear on that? Do you have a clear vision of what's in the base bid, the GC bid, and what's an ad alternate?
For the most part, we've gone over that many times. It may adjust a little bit, but overall, I would say yes.
Okay. I'll take that as a yes. I'll take that answer as a yes. I'd like to stop my questioning at this point and ask is there anything else that anyone else would like to add or discuss in terms of the schedule?
A lot's rolling around, so I can't say that I've got a good summary of everything that's been said.
So here's, okay, anyone else? So here's the takeaway. John, this is your job. We need all this put to a schedule. And we need it within 2 to 3 business days, and that'll be our standard from now on of a meeting. So that means if we have a meeting on a Monday or a Tuesday, by Friday morning, we would expect to see the results adjusted in the schedule and any other in a schedule.
With the caveat being that the design committee reviews are all dependent on selective demo, which we don't have a time frame for that yet.
Well, you can just say we make an assumption for the selective for the demo, and then add 3 to 5 days and make it into just put it, if we put it in order at least, then it's easier to update once we get the selective demo not only scheduled, but when we know that we'll get a review.
I would say further discussion on that, it would be really, really helpful if us as a building committee knew each meeting exactly what we needed to give direction on or vote on to stay on schedule. Like if you say, theater report is coming on this day and by this meeting, we need to have a yes or no vote. That way we can all kind of prep ourselves to be ready to have that discussion. as all these things are, because a lot of things are coming down the pipeline, so we just need to be able to like be guided on what is really important to focus on versus what we can wait till the next meeting to dive into the weeds. Otherwise, each meeting is gonna be like 3 hours.
And the other, and we had also talked about making the meetings more frequent or making special meetings. In a case where things build up and we're still, you know, a week and a half from a meeting, from a regular meeting, we can then say, well, we're gonna have to start scheduling midweek meetings or we're gonna have to do special meetings. But we need to be able to see that coming. It doesn't, we can't like, you know, oh gee, we should have done this yesterday. What we need to see coming is that we're getting a crunch at a certain time and we have to break that down into pieces and review them maybe in more than, you know, in consecutive night meetings or meetings that, extra meetings that we'd have to notice. And I know there's a lot of things here that we said are, that are not totally determined. We have the first selectman's idea, plan for communication. We have the ability, what is our ability to schedule and the time frame for scheduling a referendum, and how does that fit with the first selectman? But if at least we put those into the schedule and put them into an order now, we should be able to then say, these are all the things we're juggling, and these are and we're going to have to do something one way or another with them. Either push them out, bring them in, change the order, give one more priority over the other. But this would give us a fairly, well, would give us a sort of a larger list of things that we have to be taking care of. If we talked about everything that we talked about today in order, we get the information in a timely manner, 2 to 3 business days, and then we can, you know, we have a design committee people who can digest it and make, you know, adjust if they have to, or make adjustments if they have to.
And then with the selected demo, I think the environmental committee also would want to weigh in on that, right?
Yes.
But that can be a combined sort of
Yeah, combined.
analysis.
And since that's so important, who is actually going to call Kathleen or talk to Kathleen? That is 10A as far as I'm concerned. Any other? Okay. And 10B was, what's that?
Is that the,
Just
Selective
authorizing,
demo.
yeah, Fuss and O'Neill.
That's like fussing on it.
Yeah, so authorizing Fuss and O'Neill to hire a hazmat firm on a not to exceed basis of $30,000 for as soon as possible completion of the selective demo scope.
Do we have a selective demo plan? Or is
there
that
a
something?
scope?
Oh, sorry.
Is there a scope?
There should be. Yes, there were
Yes.
drawings that she had at one of the meetings that she,
She seemed to have a very good scope for the initial, and then if there needed to be further drill down, I think that was going to be elaborated on based on. But yes, I think, just email out her scope drawings. But I would trust that based on Fuss and O'Neill's scope, we should authorize them to do a not to exceed. Hire a hazmat contractor to proceed as soon as possible for the scope,
that for selective demo
for
basis?
selective.
Okay.
So if somebody wants
Who's
to
gonna
tell
turn
you
that
that.
into a motion?
So I'll make a motion to authorize Fuss and O'Neill to proceed with selective demo as soon as feasibly possible, and an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Second.
Any other discussion? In favor, indicate positively, positive, unanimous?
I guess if it comes over that, then no.
And do we have a date when Erin's coming back to the office? No.
I don't
So we
that
have,
information.
someone's going to have to be in touch with Erin when she comes back to let her know that we've done this. John, when you put the schedule together, can you indicate when this approximately is going to be happening, and let her know that we need to proceed because of the importance to the project, and that we would still like the brownfield grant to cover it, but if that's going to delay it, we need to move forward, and we'll take that money out of our budget.
Follow up with her. And
Okay.
let her know the steps that have been taken.
So did we voted? The voting's done.
Yes.
We're done. I'm done. Was there any other issues that or topics that we may need to discuss? Are there any other Jeannie, any other public comment?
Yes,
Pardon?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, Jim, state your name and address, please. You're on mute.
Sorry, Jim Schmaltz and Jonathan's Landing.
Hello, Jim.
Hi. The selective demo, is that to do the estimating for the asbestos or for structural or both?
It's, Tom,
Jim, you know, we don't need to answer your questions. Can you make it as a comment, and maybe we'll handle it from there? Is that, could you maybe rephrase that a bit, not as a question, and we can, if you make it as a comment, we may be able to respond?
Yeah, I was trying to understand better how the selective demo is being done for estimating purposes or for structural engineering purposes, or both, and how would I go about finding that?
Is that something that we choose to answer now? Is it a straightforward, or do we want to take that question as take it and send it as an individual response once we've been able to put together our thoughts?
Take it back at it.
Pardon?
I can give some,
Yeah.
just reflecting back on some of.
Okay, just Jim, we can respond to your comment.
So I think
Thank
just reflecting back on some of our past meetings, we did agree that there was some exploratory work that needed to be done to determine the extent of the asbestos, also related to how we treat it, what we do with floors, do we remove, do we encapsulate, the extent throughout the building, where is it located, how much is disposal going to cost, and in addition to that, as you peel back the layers, there could be structural issues. So we thought it was necessary to do this selective demo to get a better understanding of that, so we can understand what our final finishes ought to be to make sure it's safe. And are there any unknown structural potential issues that we need to consider now as well? So we thought the money would be well spent to do a selective demo, so we get that information and we're not surprised later on, particularly as we get into the CD phase and we want harder numbers. That's my recollection of our past conversations. I don't know if anyone else recalls it the same way.
I think that responds to your comment, Jim. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing that when we do get the information, it will be discussed in one of our meetings, and it'll be available for public consumption. Thank you for your.
Thank you. Thanks. One other quick thing, you were discussing the grant money for doing this. The way the referendum was, any of the grant money comes off the budget, to reduce the bonding. So, it may not be, it may not matter in your timeline. From a budgeting point.
I will defer to our finance people on that one and our legal people. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Motion to adjourn? We're adjourned. Thank you.
All right.